Yeah, there we go. Audio check, and we're good. Hey, gang, I'm Steve, and this is the Deployed from Detroit School of Leadership and Madness. This evening, I shouldn't be alone for too long. I think Paul's coming on, but he's got some things going on. Let's see. See, we're even set up for it. He's going to be here any minute now. Any minute now. I don't know. We'll see. But in the meantime, let's hang out. So, why today? Why this time? Long story short, no reason whatsoever. Well, there was, and then that reason stopped being a reason, and then we're like, whatevs, let's keep going. So, we didn't have anything special planned. The whole thing was sort of going to be conversation based, and now we're waiting on some people. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting on Paul here, what I can update you on is we finally made good on our promise, a year, 2 years in, and we have RSS feeds available on the website, deployedfordetroit.com, but you can also find audio versions of the show on TuneIn, and then iTunes pretty soon, Google Podcasts pretty soon. And we're dispersing it pretty much out to every sort of platform as an audio version. Warning though, the audio version is just the audio from these live streams. We're in keeping with some of our bizarro theories on how to work things. We decided to keep everything as raw as humanly possible, so that way context is there. And so there's even some blunders up there that, like, we have no regrets in being embarrassed. And so there's a couple shows where, like, the mic doesn't come on for a minute until someone calls us and is like, hey. That's why I kind of insist on checking the mic every time. Double checking, triple checking, 8-9 time checking it, just in case, because that's not fun. But anyway, so we're on the TuneIn and all that, and so you can holler at your favorite household device and say, Alexa, play the School of Leadership and Madness on TuneIn.
Here's School of Leadership and Madness from TuneIn. Happy 9/11. DFD / SLM-12020261.
Yeah, I'm more impressed than Alexa. Stop. Hey, Alexa, please stop. Please. I'm probably more impressed than you, but you're probably like, yeah, dickhead, you're supposed to do that. Well, we did. And there we are. So now you can reach us on all your devices and listen to us anytime if that's your preferred method of slugging all this information down. I don't know. I don't want to get preachy or teachy. I don't want to get in anything like that. Like, top 5 ways to not fucking blow your head off in the middle of this nonsense. And there's so much of that shit going on that, like, what I struggle with most is maintaining integrity and authenticity. Like, anytime we develop a product, anytime we develop an idea, no matter what it is, we want there to be a genuine level of authenticity, and we want there to be a traceable line of integrity. Something where we can be trusted to do, if not one thing, at least the other. And so that's kind of critical to a lot of stuff. So it causes us to be a little bit slow with putting out material sometimes, because, it's difficult to respond to some of the discourse out there. We could do I'm looking at some of these different programs out there, and they're talking about terms in such stark words that they don't have, like, the right to use. Almost, I shouldn't say the right, because that's preposterous, sort of, as a big fan of the Constitution. But it feels like they don't have authentic access to those words, because I can't imagine they've had an experience like that. There's a lot of people out there in the public, and I'm not a side picker, because side picking is a ridiculous pastime, because baseball got too boring or something. But on either end of the thing, let me see if I can slow down and hang on to this thought before I disappear. I was fixing the time travel. And I lost it. I ended up at the old Tiger Stadium sometime in the 90s. It was sunny out. I can't, weird. It's not like legit time travel. It's just like that's where my little flashbacks go. And they come with... It's weird. I don't know. We were talking about authenticity. Oh, yeah, access to authentic language. Is that the right? Who gives a shit? There's Hemingway makes the point in The Sun Also Rises. I often trick myself up and call it The Sun Also Sets because that was the name of like a TV show in Soap, was it? It was like a Robert Downey Jr. It was, I don't know, look it up, but it was like, I think Sally Fields was in it too. It was pretty awesome. But, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. Oh, Sun Also Rises. There's a paragraph in there about words losing meaning. Words like, it's tricky to find the quote when you can't remember what the hell what the words are. But words like honor and victory and, you know, there's a lot of words getting thrown out, you know, civil war. That phrase, not one word, that phrase gets thrown around pretty goddamn loose these days for a country of ninnies who've never, like, touched another person in their life. It's odd that such a pampered, like, the ones who live in violence aren't calling for civil war, they're calling for peace. But it's all the, like, suburban chicken shits who are ready to start a war over something that doesn't even involve them. And they can pretend they're being altruistic, but if nobody called the cavalry, you're not the fucking cavalry. That is the problem there, bud. But it's tricky. Because we still want to do things. Everybody wants to do something. We want to do something. But, you know, we really don't care about, like, it's difficult to cancel a show with 71 subscribers. Go ahead and fucking try. Like, so that's not a fear of ours. And we don't think that we say anything so egregious that it may call for that. But I know some people stumble into that anyway. But that's not my concern. I think we're sort of past that. I wonder if we've run out of ways to be inspiring. Then it's not that we're attempting to be inspiring. It's just that people are so fucking bummed that it seems like there should be some focus there, you know? Like, I'm definitely not the person to do anything on how to organize your closets. I'm not the type of person to, you know, I don't know. I'm not gonna, like, well, I could start a cooking show. I'm a badass fucking cook. I'll tell you that much. Maybe I will do something like that, sort of on the side, one of these days, when I get somebody to hold the camera. But no, our focus is leadership and madness, and, you know, suffering to some degree, because all forms of madness, unless you have some form of contentment, you sort of suffer with them. And in leadership, the benefit of teaching leadership and leadership skills is that they are things that will allow you to change yourself and change your environment. They will also allow you to get people through difficult situations they may not be able to get through on their own. So encouraging more leaders creates a stronger community. That's our theory, or hypothesis, I should say. Though I could say theory if I did the homework and ran some numbers or something. But that's probably not even true, too. Who gives a shit? That is our running hypothesis, though, is that by inputting more genuine leaders into the community can be stronger. And that seems like it should be true. If there are more competent people who can get us through tough situations, the situations won't be that tough. We get through them quicker, we're good to go. Right now, there's a lot of people who are leading based on fear. They're trying to make you scared, but it's also in some cases because they're scared. Sometimes it's a fabrication, but I think some of it is, if you always look at those fabrications, or I can't remember who the hell said it, but somebody was talking about deception, where deception always has to be near enough to the truth that it can be believed and that you can say the lie sort of confidently. So I don't know that, like, some of these more wide ranging conspiracies, like the whole 9/11 was an inside job, that seems on the spectrum a bit much for me. The whole there's rich people funneling children around to have sex with them, yeah, that's been going on for thousands of years. So I'm like, that one doesn't surprise me. So as much as it's just a matter of, like, you know, uncovering that one, or what the fuck is my point at this point, you know? I apologize, gang. I had a thing planned and that didn't get planned, and but anyway, that's it, it's the articulation is it's where I have the most difficulty, but it's mostly where I have the most concern, if that makes any sense. Where, because of how clear I want to be at times, the more I can sort of get tripped up on being clear and just end up saying nonsense at times, which, you know, it is what it is. But it's just part of how my head works. It is definitely broken in a couple spots, but it mostly gets the job done, so that's fun. Yeah, we haven't run out of topics. That's for damn well sure. We could tell you about anything. How do I do this? How do I do that? Sure, we could do how do I do this? How do I do that type thing. I'm still trying to chew through The Perennial Philosophy by Aldous Huxley, and that's a pretty interesting one. It predates Campbell by like 30 years. Like Campbell's monomyth theory, it predates that by about 30 or 40 years. I think 30 years. But it's Huxley sort of tying in how most religions pretty much tell the same story. And then if they have these sort of details, there's a number of shared details among them. And it's not so much like a conspiracy sort of thing. It's just this sort of realization that when you put a human being into a certain situation, they will always have the same needs. And so those needs will always attempted to be met. You're not just going to, oh, there's no food here, so I guess we just don't do food anymore. No, you're going to find whatever it is around that you can eat, you know. It's at least the ones that survive will. My brain stopped working. That's another thing I gotta... Well, I mean, there's nothing to look at because that disassociation business is weird. Because it's such a big word for... I mean, it's a semi-dramatic event, but it's not like... It doesn't feel like it deserves that big a word. It's basically just you blank out and you're like, whoa, hang on. And it's odd, too, because I don't necessarily know what'll do it. In the early cases, earliest times of it, smells would kick me off. And then textures and, like, a lot of real kind of visceral shit. Looking at stuff, hearing about stuff, but, like, for the most part, that's kind of gone. And then now it's just these odd moments where I'll be in the middle of talking and then just get reminded of something. And just as quick as that, I'm just off to another place. And then, you know, it's not like I don't know. it's so difficult to explain because it's not that I stop realizing I'm here. It's it's that the sort of flashback, if you will, as they used to call it, and then they started calling it a few other things, but essentially it's almost like um, it gets projected on top sometimes. That's one way. And then another way is that it gets like a window opens, like a window where you can't see the edges, where it's just a plane of sorts, and then you can sort of see into that other place. And then you're like, and I'm back. And we were talking about what? And then we're off. So it is weird, and it's not real, and it's not really a hallucination. It has similar hallmarks, but there isn't any sort of like, oh, this is a real thing, this is a real place, I'm really there. But there are aspects of it that feel genuine, feel authentic, which is why I think when people first encounter these episodes, they have a really hard time with them, because depending on where you're flashing back to, it could smell different, it could taste different, it could look different, it could be any number of things. And then, you got to go from there to Toys R Us in about 6 seconds and just be cool with it. So it's weird. It's kind of like, imagine you're driving home, or no, let's say you're driving to a party, and then you're driving to your party, having a good time, and then you hit a telephone pole, and you fly through the windshield, and you cut your face full of shit, and you're bleeding, and you've cut off like half of your foot, and you're limping, and it's just bad, and you're a bloody mess, and you're like, well, now I gotta go into the party. It's not fair to say it's that level of expectation, but it is sometimes that level of trauma. And then that level of like having to just go, well, walk it off, bucko. And, oh, I may not be able to walk this off very easily, which is why, if you have somebody who's going through this and they ask for a minute, give them a minute. Like, that is the safest thing you can do in a lot of cases, because not many of us lose, like, some of us can become violent. That is true. Most of us will not become violent. Most of us will become just belligerent, loud, for the most part, maybe posture, but typically that's the most of it, and it's just a safety thing. Like, whatever mood we're in, maybe we've zoned out, and now we're coming back, and we're still a little bit foggy, we don't know what the hell's going on, so now we're just like being loud to make sure nobody touches us. And that's a pretty sort of, unfortunately, common reaction early on, and sort of persistently through, depending on what's going on. And it's not that you have to walk on eggshells around people. You just also have to, what you expect of them, you also have to develop in yourself. If you're asking them to shake it off, you need to shake it off too. And that's a difficult ask for both of you. So the answer's in the middle ground there. If you're dealing with somebody like me who just forgets what the hell's going on every 5 seconds, then I'm sorry, you got to be like Paul and be the one who keeps track of shit and says, hey, we were talking about this, knucklehead. And I go, oh, okay, all right, cool. You could have a space cadet like me. You could have somebody who gets angry, and you're like, oh shit. You gotta find the angry person. You gotta find their. I'll stop clicking stuff. That's gotta be annoying. just like in how they did in the Avengers movie, how Black Widow has like a secret way to calm down the Hulk. Like most of us have a method of being brought into reality. Sometimes it's a snap, sometimes it's a this, it's different for each person. Um but find out what that thing is, and maybe the person you're dealing with doesn't know what that thing is cuz they haven't had anyone take the time to find it. So you just got to be patient with them through that. But like know that it's also nobody's enjoying this process. Nobody's having fun with it. And but if more than one of us is working through this, it'll be over with quicker. So maybe we're a bummer to be around for a couple of months, but then we start to perk up, versus a couple of years where, if someone's left to their own sometimes, they'll just sit and fester until someone comes by and pops them. Yeah, it's tricky. It is tricky out there, folks. You know that, I know that. It's a preposterous, redundant thing for me to say at this point. There's a goddamn plague. This election business, I'm not scared because, like I said, even though these people are talking about civil war, I think most of them are likely chicken shit to some degree. Um, and that is worrying to one. I'll admit that can be worrying because somebody who is in a fear posture is more likely to react poorly because they're not responding to what's actually going on. They're responding to a very narrow perception of what's going on. So they're only seeing a few things, they're only hearing a few things, they're only perceiving a few things. If they had a better mind, or not better mind frame, but like a better grasp of the bigger picture, then they would be less, if you didn't know about school buses, you might panic to find out that there's someone driving around in a giant vehicle picking up children every day. And you're like, I'm going to follow this son of a bitch and see where they go. And then they drop off at school and you're like, all right, what the fuck are they doing with all these kids? Like, if you didn't know what a school was, if you couldn't read English, and let's pretend, let's go full thought experiment. You just see a bunch of children standing on the street, and then for no reason at all, they just get into this giant vehicle. And then they get dropped off at this place, and they just sit there for hours on end. That's confusing. That's terrifying. Maybe you're going to call the cops and go, I think there's some kind of, network going around. I don't know if they're using these kids. Maybe it's a sweatshop, or they're like, no, that's a school, dipshit. And you go, oh. Things start to make sense. If you understand, there's the case of the Banana Man that I need to get my buddy Matt on to talk about with a little bit more integrity, but this is secondhand. But there was this fella who came by the base every day while the Marines held the base, and he sold bananas. And everybody loved him, and it was fantastic. And then, the first or second day the Army takes over the base, Banana Man is killed at the gate. And it's just because they didn't know about the Banana Man, amongst other things. There were a number of things wrong with that scenario from what I'm told secondhand, but I won't do details because, again, secondhand. But the gist of it is, anyway, they killed this person because they didn't have the full story. They had a certain expectation in their mind of what this place was supposed to be and what they should be looking out for. And you can't trust anybody. You can't do this. And they didn't know that there was a caveat of, but the Banana Man's cool. They didn't have that. Had they just be like, let me check your stuff, good to go, have a good one, buddy. And Banana Man would be fine. But they never got that extra context layer. And because of that extra context layer of there's a banana guy, which however long that statement takes to there's a banana guy. 5 words could have been expelled to prevent the death of another human being. 5 preposterous words. Oh, there's a banana guy? Really? Yeah, but there's a banana guy. Or there was. Because nobody knew about the banana guy. the ones who didn't tell the ones who needed to know. And then there wasn't one. So you get it. It's all. That's a particularly sad story. There's a number of particularly sad stories that come out of that kind of shit. I mean, that's some of the interesting things about the news is you have the oversaturation. But I've left the news running. If you have like Sirius or something and play CNN on there, it'll just like loop the same hour of stuff or the same couple. Like it updates every now and again, but I mean, even on the TV, it's still the same loop of information, even if it's a different anchor. It's still the same shit. It's like, hi, I'm Don, and this is news. Hi, I'm so and so, and this is. And there's a repeat, and it's not just CNN, it's Fox, it's all these other ones. So it's like, yeah, we're oversaturated with news because there's an abundance of channels, but like what's actually being generated by these people is pretty limited and narrow. And what's kind of remarkable is because of how narrow they've made themselves, it's created that space where you can have different sets of facts on the same stuff, where you can have, oh, what a disaster, and then on the other channel, oh, what a win. And it's bizarre. It's what is the right, bizarre's not good enough, weird's not good enough, tricky's not good enough. What is going on with that? What is happening with this? What is that space? It's the space that's left out. It's like, so because we have these such narrow bands of information, people are given headlines, and then even if like you read past the headlines, much of that filler is just complete horseshit written by amateurs, like pure garbage. Syntax is off, vernacular's off. It's all just like, not all of it is hyperbolic, but a lot of it is just nonsense with a neat title. And they're hoping you just read the title and that you don't read the nonsense. Like the actual good journalists a lot of times get shelved or shuffled in with just bullshit. And so the information you're getting is often weak at best. So if you're doing your research, you have to trace to the source and trace to the source. And like, you have to become the journalist yourself now if you're consuming from these places. And so most people aren't going to do that. And so these weird new religions come up because you have to have faith to believe in CNN. You have to have faith to believe in Fox News. You don't have to have faith in God. You have to have faith in Fox News. You have to have faith in CNN. You have to have faith in NBC. You have to have faith in whatever source of information you're taking if you don't bother to look into it yourself, if you don't bother to follow up with that story, if you don't bother to find the report or find the source or do whatever, you're just going on faith, which for a secular society that shits on religions all the time, it is interesting to see it develop these things that fill religion holes. They still need many portions of that old-time religion, and so they just fill it into the other things in their life. And so politics is a religion in a certain sense, because how many people are actually looking into what their candidates and their representatives and their elected officials, what their voting record is, what their attendance record is? That one would fuck your head up for some of your representatives. It would blow your mind how many people just don't show up to work. But there they are. It's I time traveled there because I got fuzzy. We were talking about something. Man, it is difficult to recover that when I'm on my own. I mean, it's difficult to recover that when I'm with anybody else too, but yeah, when I lose my train of thought, the goddamn thing disappears. It's just, huh? Because, yeah, Well, I guess I talked about the departure, but I never talked about the sort of. Because when you come back, there's a portion of it called. Pardon, I'm gonna. Nicotine. Don't start, kids. I've quit heroin. Well, opiates. And I'm still working on this one, so careful. That's not to say start opiates because they're easy to quit, because that's not true whatsoever. I'm just saying this is more difficult. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, forgetting stuff, coming back to the body. There's this thing called dissociative amnesia. I think I mentioned it before a few times, probably. Who knows? I forget. Remember? Amnesia. But a portion of it is like, there's a waking up process where it's odd. You're sort of 1 foot in this place and 1 foot in another, and then when you get slapped back here, there's this sort of dazed effect. And it's where, like, I can get angry really quick. Because if I come to and I hear somebody being shitty, I'm just, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna just get right into it because that's what we're doing, apparently. That's the universe I just came to. And then, so a lot of times it's bizarre because I'm sitting here and I just show up in some universe where there's, like, way too many monitors, and it's a sci-fi dream is too generous. It's nightmare would also be too intense, but it's just one of those dreams you have where you're like, what the fuck is going on? It's just one of those. And so I come to that, you know, with different colored lights and all these different screens. And, you know, I was just in a Raspberry Patch in 1980, like 8, having a good time. Had a blue jacket. It makes swishy sounds when I put my arms against it. There's red and yellow stripes across the chest. I don't know. I can't remember if there's a hood or not. Sometimes there is, but a lot of times I remember just having, like, a collar. I don't know. But I remember the raspberries were good, especially this time of year. For some fucking reason. For no reason at all. We were talking about whatever, and I teleported there. Like, I could even see the bushes above my head. I was shorter for that time being. It's a weird thing. It makes it hard to, like, pay your bills on time and shit. Amongst other things. It's difficult to stay on task. Especially if I'm, like, in and out or blanking, or it depends on what the subject is sometimes. Like, I have an okay time focusing if I'm playing, like, a game, and it's typically in a game just because it's one of the few places that this exists, I guess. But games with just visual stuff going on, like SimCity type games where, you know, you put the roads down, you put these here, things start to make sense. There's a little bit of the rules are natural enough that, like, you can kind of go for it and just sit there for a while. And, like, builders and things where I don't have to read, which is nice. Things where there's not a whole lot of story, because a lot of times the story's dumb. I mean, sometimes the story's great. Like, let's be serious. Mass Effect nailed it. Star Wars The Old Republic nailed it pretty good, too. Oh, hey. We got somebody here. Hey, now. Hi. I'm going to respond back here. Yeah, so I'm blanking out, having a good chat. It's fun. The difficulties of having a brain that doesn't do the things you'd like it to do. Yeah, so maybe I'll cut it short, because if I'm spazzing out this much, you know, I probably need my co-host buddy with me, and I don't know if he's coming on. Not to blame him, though. This was all sort of last minute, and so we're probably going to do... I don't know that we'll get one out this weekend. That would probably be a bit of an ask, but next week for sure we'll do one. We're just trying to get something out. every week. I wish I could have been a little bit more valuable. I'm hoping me dissecting my little blackouts helps you. If you know somebody who's got PTSD or has dissociative identity disorder, that one's different. That's multiple personality disorder, which is a separate horse altogether. But as far as like the amnesia part, there's some degree of similarity there, although they may be coming back as a different person. So that's a whole nother level on top of that. I'm just fuzzy for a moment. They're fuzzy and Cheryl, and you're like, oh fuck. But essentially, like, it's interesting too because like where you have the dissociative identity disorder, when someone's young enough, they go through a traumatic experience, and then in that process, it's the same thing as PTSD, except they develop new personalities to handle the different segments of the trauma. Whereas when you're older, you don't have that capability to sort of segment them completely. But I think in many of us, there is a division that occurs somewhat. And many of us have, like I say the Hulk all the time, and that seems to ring true for a lot of people. And other sort of metaphors like that. A lot of people feel like they're in the back seat sometimes. A lot of people feel like an animal at times. I in my own mind, it feels like I get pushed out of the driver's seat somehow, and something else is running the show. But it's not the same as the multiple personalities where they don't have names, they don't think they're anybody else. It's just sort of different gears or different modes almost, where the sort of higher version of myself is divided into these other versions of myself, like, not versions, but they sort of have a cap on what they can control and what they can handle, or what they think they can handle. None of them are really great at it. But, whenever the one reaction comes or the other reaction comes, I'm losing it. So anyway, folks, that's what it's like to not know what you're saying half the time. It's tricky to keep track of most things. And so I'm likely going to stare at the wall for a couple hours. And I don't know. I did it again. See? So no point doing anything I need to remember or want to remember, like reading a book or watching TV. So I need to do something that, like, that's another bummer too. Like, if I watch something now, it's got to be something I've already seen. Because, like, I can't read. Like, I've been trying to finish that perennial philosophy book for, maybe 2 months now? And it's not that long, and it's an audiobook. But, like, I keep having these zony phases where there's really no sense in me trying to listen to it because I won't remember a damn thing. Like, I keep going kind of in and out. So, yeah, it sucks. Sorry, now I'm burping in the mic. It's a whole set of problems, folks. I didn't come here to bum you out. Just came here to say, hey, you can find us on iTunes pretty soon, but if not, we're on TuneIn. We're going to be on, like, Spotify and all the Google, this, that, and the other. So enjoy the audio version of what is the video podcast, and who the hell knows? We're having fun. We're trying to get shit done. So closing notes then, and legit too. I'm not going to go on for another hour like I do. The email is dfd.slm@deployedfromdetroit.com if you'd like to send us a message or let us know what's going on. We don't do ads because we don't give a shit. We don't have sponsors. That's not anything that interests us just yet. If you'd like to be a sponsor, give us a buzz and we'll talk. But again, we're a nonprofit with some pretty bizarre and specific goals in mind. So holler at us, catch up. Go check us out on the audio version. See if you like it. Let us know if any of them are just too bad and we need to take them down. Again, get a hold of us by email, dfd.slm@deployedfromdetroit.com. Pretty soon, we're going to get our buddy Steve-O on here. He doesn't like being called Steve-O, so that's what I'm going to call him it right now while he's not here. But Steve-O's going to come on and talk to us about all kinds of interesting things. He was in the Army as a cavalryman. I don't believe he had a horse. I think he had a tank. So that's pretty interesting. He was in Iraq and Texas. And I think he's now out in the AZ. So we're going to get him on and have some fun conversations, get caught up with him. I haven't seen him since, oh, goodness gracious. I'll bet you it's been more than 10. Maybe. I bet near 10. 10-ish. Might be more, though. Who the fuck knows? But anyway, I'm going to cut it short here. Love you, gang. Take care. We'll see you on the next one.